It's been roughly 7 years since a coach suggested to me that I start waking up earlier in order to make more progress on the goals that I had for my business and to feel more balanced in my life as a mom. And after a bit of resistance, I eventually relented and did start to wake up earlier. But the thing is, in those 7 years that I've been crafting and editing my morning routine, I've come to realize that it's less about the actual time that I'm waking up and more about what I'm actually doing. My morning routine has shifted from being focused primarily on productivity into preparation for juggling all the things that come along with being a mom and an entrepreneur. I truly believe that everyone can benefit from a morning routine that isn't just roll out of bed, brush your teeth, and run out the door, especially if you're someone with ADHD. That's why on today's episode, we're discussing the benefits of an ADHD morning routine, tips on creating your morning routine, and I'll run you through what my morning routine looks like and why I've chosen to do some of the things that I do. All of this on today's episode of the ADHD Mompreneur. But before we dive into that, I'm Christy Lingo, the ADHD Mompreneur. I've created a mom-centered executive function coaching program for ADHD mom entrepreneurs who have really amazing, big ideas that they want to put out into the world, but they might be struggling a little bit with what they should do, or finding time to work, or staying consistent in their home or business life. As a mom who started her first business in 2009, I know exactly what it feels like to try to run a business and have a family, and that's something that I feel traditional business coaching programs may not quite understand. I've also been diagnosed with ADHD, and I'm the parent of an ADHD child, so I have a really good understanding of our unique needs and challenges as a neurodivergent person, which is another thing I find is often misunderstood in the neurotypical coaching community. Ain't nothing wrong with what they're doing. It just doesn't always work with our unique brains, you know? Okay, so morning routines. I like to think of my morning routine as kind of a warm-up ritual for my brain and body. A way to start your day your way and create an awareness around what you have on your agenda. A morning routine can provide structure to the start of your day. And believe me, I know firsthand how difficult it is for those of us with ADHD to create structure because it just kind of sounds a little bit boring. But what if I told you that by creating a morning routine, you have fewer decisions to make at the beginning of the day, which saves that precious dopamine and executive function for later in the day when you might need it for something related to your business or your family. Our morning routine gives us a chance to review what's coming for the day and determine what the energy needs might be. For more on energy management, be sure to check out last week's episode, which I will link to in the show description below. I also love that a morning routine gives you a chance to practice some self-care or do something that you love that's just for you before you have to start being a mom or building a business for the day. I've found that when you make time to do the things that you love first thing in the day, it's much easier to stay consistent with them. I know before I started my morning routine, I was consistently complaining about the fact that everything I did seemed to be for my family or for my work, and that I was never doing anything for myself. But not anymore, because now I make sure that I start nearly every day with some sort of activity that is specifically for me. So how should you go about crafting your ADHD morning routine? Well, let me start by saying that just because it's a morning routine doesn't mean that it has to start at the crack of dawn. It's more about the ritual of starting your day than it is about starting at an exact time. And while there are all kinds of morning routine blogs and videos out there saying you should do this or you need to do that, When it comes to us ADHDers creating our morning routines, it's really about what activities will suit our needs. Your morning routine might include reading or pet care or exercise or eating or skydiving. Your routine may start off slowly with just 1 or 2 or 3 tasks and slowly morph into something that's a little bit more robust depending on your needs. I love the approach that Amy Landino lays out in her morning routine book, Good Morning, Good Life. And full disclosure, Amy is a friend of mine, and she is the coach that I mentioned in the intro that encouraged me to start waking up early. Amy has 3 components to a morning routine that she suggests in her book. The first is movement. How can you prepare your body for the day? Next is mindfulness. How can you prepare your brain for the day? And finally is mastery. What can you learn or work towards in order to get closer to your goals during your morning routine? In the book, she gives all kinds of examples of different tasks that fall into each category. And I really love the flexibility because, let's face it, us ADHDers do love to have options. I also like to keep a bit of flexibility within the routine that I've set to help keep me from getting bored. Things like changing up the type of workout that I do or changing the order that I do things in. In fact, I recently made a pretty big shift to the morning routine that I had been maintaining for about 2 years when my youngest son decided that he wanted to work out with me in the mornings. This required me to shift my workout later in the morning and essentially flip-flop what I had been doing after my workout to first thing in the morning. And I will say that this flip-flop has really energized my morning routine. One other area you may want to explore some flexibility in is the expectations you have for what you will or would like to accomplish during your morning routine. If you've been around for a while, you may have heard of my good, better, best method when it comes to expectations. And I think it's really important when it comes to morning routines to have some varying levels of what success might look like in your routine so that you don't get frustrated or overwhelmed and then throw in the towel and give it all up. A good version of your morning routine may be 1 or 2 or 3 things that are non-negotiable, things that you do every morning to set up your day for success. A better version of your morning routine might look like the non-negotiables from the good version, along with a couple of tasks that you would like to do specifically for yourself or to set your day up on those days when you don't have time to complete your full routine. And the best version would be all the things, the non-negotiables, the things for yourself, the things for your home, anything that you want to do to start your day in a successful way. Since your energy levels are going to vary from day to day based on your sleep, your dopamine levels, your stress levels, and so much more, having tiered expectations of what success looks like in your morning routine can go a long way in helping you stick with it. I want to wrap up today by sharing what it is that I do in the mornings and why it is that I have chosen to do these things to start my day. Remember, it's not about following the exact routine that I do or creating a perfect morning routine for yourself. It's about a routine that helps you to start your day your way. And to my earlier point about expectations, what I'm giving you today is what I would consider the best version, the ideal version of my morning routine. And there are definitely mornings where not all of these things get done. First, I wake up using a sunrise alarm clock. I went back to using an alarm clock versus my cell phone because I didn't like the way that I felt when I started my day with scrolling. I've even taken the additional step of putting an app blocker on my phone, which allows me to only use the most basic functions of my phone, like calling or texting, before the hour of 7 a.m. Next, I meditate for roughly 10 minutes using either the Calm or Headspace apps, and this is currently taking place most days in bed. And I know how resistant us ADHDers can be to the idea of meditation because I used to be in the exact same boat. But in 2020, a coach helped me to reframe what meditation looked like for me. Instead of thinking about it as clearing my brain and keeping it clear, it was about refocusing my brain and training it to do so when I would get distracted. And which ADHDer among us doesn't need to practice a little bit of refocusing when we get distracted? I know that my brain needs all the refocusing practice that it can get. This would qualify as the mindfulness component to my morning routine, as well as my next action, which is my gratitude practice. I like to use the 5-minute journal app, which just basically has me answer 3 questions and takes about 2 to 4 minutes. I started this habit back in 2020, just before the lockdowns, and I'm so grateful that I did because it really helped me to stay positive during that time and then subsequently when I was going through cancer treatment. I am a big believer that abundance attracts more abundance, but lack definitely attracts more lack, and I'm all for the abundance. Up next, I practice French on Duolingo. As of the recording of this video, I am on a 608-day streak. And if you're wondering if I can speak and understand French, je peux parler et comprendre un peu le français. But for me, I have wanted to learn how to speak French since my first trip to France in 2020. So this is something that I do every day that's just for me. It also is one of my mastery components to my morning routine. The next thing that I do is to review or schedule any of the follow-ups or check-ins that I have for my client that day. And if I have time before I need to wake up my son, I'll also review what's on my agenda. Usually on Sundays or Mondays, I lay out my week day by day so that I can get a broad overview of what I'm doing for the week. And then each day I will create a sheet with what needs to be completed that day, anything that I have left from the day before, any calls that I have, and so on and so forth. Then at about 6:30, I wake up my son and we do a 15 to 30 minute workout on YouTube that usually consists of weights or HIIT or yoga. And this fulfills that movement component of my morning routine. Then when we're stretching, I like to watch either Stephen Colbert or Seth Meyers' monologue from the previous night because typically I like to consume my news with a little bit of laughter because it makes it slightly less stressful. From there, I move to what we'll call the family-friendly portion of my morning routine, which includes making breakfast or packing lunches for my kids. And if there is time before school drop-off, I'll go ahead and tackle the dishes from the night before. If you saw my video about energy management last week, you know that I'm a morning person and my motivation and task initiation skills are higher in the morning than they are in the evening after dinner. That is why I've given myself some grace and I have dropped the guilt of not having the sink completely clean before I go to bed. And now I do my dishes in the morning when I have the most amount of energy. From there, I take my kids to school, and when I get back, if I haven't completed the dishes yet, I will tackle those then and make myself some breakfast that contains some sort of protein. Protein is especially important for those of us with ADHD because the amino acids in proteins are used to make dopamine. So if we already have a lower amount of dopamine and then we don't have enough of the building blocks for making dopamine, we're really going to be in a bind. While I'm eating my breakfast, I will go ahead and review what I have on my agenda for the day if I haven't already. And then, if I have time before my first call, I'll go ahead and shower and get ready. So that's my morning routine and some insight into why I do what I do. If you have questions about setting up your morning routine, or you'd like to share some of your morning non-negotiables, comment below or leave me a voicemail message at the link in the show description. And make sure that you've hit the follow or subscribe button so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes, like next week, where we will be discussing what ADHD is like if you are an introvert. Until then, keep making your ADHD journey part of your success story. If you're a business-owning mom with ADHD, you're going to need to grab my free, customizable essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs by visiting bit.ly/checklists for ADHD mompreneurs or by following the link in the episode description. Do it now before you forget. Until next time,